Good afternoon, this is the Solid Waste Advisory Committee meeting. It's Town of Dayton, 979 Somerset Avenue, Dayton, Mass. 02715. This is the regular meeting, Monday, May 22nd at 2023 at 4 p.m. Council on Aging, Primetime Building, 1059 Somerset Avenue, Dayton, Mass. 02715. This meeting is being recorded. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at this meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. We're going to call to order. I think we have a quorum, so we really don't have to take attendance. Can everybody please rise for the attendance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So first on the agenda is old business. And first is A, the fiscal year 2024 budget update.
We, at this point, we really don't have any other information to report. We made it through the selectmen in the FinCom recommendation process. We do have, as we know, we did separate out the transfer station budget for the first time from the overall solid waste budget. That in FY24 will be in the domain of the highway superintendent. We do have the funding for 14 hours for a transfer station attendant and laborer. That's been budgeted as well. So everything's in there that the committee reviewed and approved earlier in the year. At this point, there has been no additional changes to the FY24 budget until we get to town meeting on the 5th. So we should be in fairly good shape.
Great. I have just a question.
Mm-hmm.
Were there, you might have brought this up in the last week, additional hours added to compensate the highway department, the transfer station?
For the,
Clerical work?
yes,
Yes.
Oh,
in delivering bags and clerical work.
okay.
And so they've also included on the highway department portion is there's proposed funding going to town meeting to bring the highway department office manager up to 35-hour status, and to have her be and to deal with her grade as well.
B, transfer station update. This would be examples of intake, revenues, point of sale. In Tom, where are we at with interviewing people, or have we?
So it just basically went out, it's only been out for about a week.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
aware of any replies at this time.
Right. So you guys are still doing it with no issues?
Yes, it's still, I believe it's, overtime's coming out of our budget, but
Right.
yes, we should be able to.
Okay, great. So intake. We don't have any other than,
We don't, the transfer station update has been a standing item on our agenda, so we could discuss intake, staffing, and the point of sale as well. On that, we have ordered the Surface tablets as well.
okay.
We have been waiting them for a good 3 weeks now, which is a little much in my opinion. I actually earlier today I reached out to AT&T to see where they are and if they can help us expedite their arrival. On the back end, we are the policy that is actually going to the selectmen on Wednesday night that will help have all the belts and suspenders in terms of the information security for credit cards.
Yep.
So when we do get the tablets, we'll have everything all built up in place. So we should hopefully be able to hit the ground running on that, by the first of the fiscal year.
Right, just a little bit of training and we'll be ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
What will I mean, just to refresh my memory, because I know we had some discussion about that, what it could and couldn't do. So, for example, would, if someone came in with a truckload, whatever, would we be able to say, in addition to collecting the fee, truckload, and oh, by the way, had a TV on board, so could we annotate, truckload so much, and then a TV, so at the end of, well, when we went for accountability or went to do an inventory, we would know what had arrived at that point in time. Will that capability exist?
I believe so. I think the biggest challenge is if they don't have credit card. If, they still gonna be able to use a check.
No, I mean, well, okay, separate issue. Will we have an inventory of what's coming in up to date as of, let's say it comes in on a Saturday, as of that Saturday, will we have an inventory of everything that's come in since?
Oh, inventory, it should be instant, yes.
Okay,
Yes,
terrific, okay.
and it should be remotely too.
Yeah, the other issue we had talked about would be the credit card issue and stuff, but that's, I think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we said until that can be resolved, you take credit card or a check, and then it'd have to be a manual entry into the system.
Right.
Okay, great, thank you.
And if somebody comes in with a truckload and there's a TV on that, they pay for the TV separate in addition to the truckload.
Yes, correct.
And we'll be able to keep track of.
So the program is not written yet, but it looks like we drop down windows that you can tap on, security items. The intent, it'll be a room for the attendant's discretion too, if he's gonna just quantify a partial load or full load and all that stuff.
Does any training come with it, or?
For the IT stuff,
Yeah,
yeah, minimal,
okay.
yes.
Right. Yeah, and is it Apple iPad? Is that what
No,
it's
it's
coming from
it's-
AT&T?
No, it's the new vendor we have for the
It's
phones.
Microsoft
Surface.
Surface
Surface,
Pro.
okay,
yeah.
Yes.
And the reason for that is it's got USB capabilities where Apple does not have any USB capability.
Right,
We need that for the credit card.
Okay.
portion of it, So,
that's cool. I think it's gonna work out.
the designing and customization of the POS is going to be able to allow us to quantify and come up with what you're referring to, Bob. So that as long as we can have some control over that, which I understand we can, then we can make sure that all of that stuff is captured in real time, as Tom said, through the system.
That's a great leap forward, I think.
Will we be able to give receipts?
E-receipts,
Just e-receipts,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm,
Well, it's better than nothing.
yeah, and most people today prefer e-receipts,
Right.
so.
Yeah, I was just wondering, companies that come in,
Right.
business one.
Right. Yeah, every transaction that we do needs to have some type of receipt. In this particular case, without a remote printer,
Right,
which we can get, but is much more cumbersome,
yeah, why bother?
it would be an e-receipt.
Okay. Any other questions on it or comments? Okay, let's move on to C, bulky item link. Todd, do you want to take this one?
Sure, so this year is running way under what we've done in the past. The last 3 years, we were 360, 375, 430. This year, we're only at about 190, so we're about half of what we did last year. So way behind, not sure why, don't know if it's because everybody cleared out the houses for COVID, because they don't want to pay the $15 fee to pick it up, but we're running way behind, but
It is what it is.
it is what it is. But it's a good week weather-wise, we're putting stuff out at the curb and we haven't, it looks like we're gonna be okay from Mr. Terry's end.
Great. So you're ready, Tom?
It started today, yes.
Yes.
The usual too. I mean, the guys are around by my house, then they come back. No,
No,
we'll come back at the end of the week, because
Yeah.
every day is gonna have the people you gotta go back to, so
Right.
guys will do all come back, so.
okay,
And I talked to Elizabeth about how to be cordial about it, we'd like to come back to you, it would have to be Friday.
right,
Right.
okay.
And then one guy even offered, well, I can take it to my sister's house.
Why couldn't you take it to the transfer station?
That's interesting.
We won't mention that former selectman's name.
Okay. I'm not former yet, so I don't have to worry about that. You never know.
Do we have
I
any,
don't have a system.
So nothing tremendous about Bulky Week then. I know in the past it's been quite the gear up for, but
It is, and again, we're running about half of what we
Yeah.
normally did, so usually we're just pulling a hair out of the office
Right.
trying to keep up.
she seemed to be busy today. She said she was.
Yeah, it's been quite steady.
Yeah.
I don't think the fact that we're 50% has anything to do with the program itself. Don't forget, we're coming out of COVID, everybody got rid of everything they
Sure.
possibly had during COVID.
Right.
So I just think either one, people are caught up, or two, they're holding on to things because of the economy.
Right.
One or the other.
Yeah.
So.
Be a number of reasons.
So one quick question, like in terms of any like feedback on like the mattresses, or the $15, have we, have any residents had any feedback on like either of those issues at all?
There was some questions asked, but no. A few people asked why, and we explained it to them, and they were like, okay. And so it's been,
So nobody gave us a hard time.
I'd say more than 50% coming in knew about the $15 pickup fee before they got there.
Okay.
So,
That's good.
I don't see it as a deterrent.
No, no, if you got, it's cheap.
Yeah.
If you have stuff to get rid of, $15 is nothing, and it's a lot easier convenience fee.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Bob, this might be for you, update on solid waste mailing?
Well, I think, Michael, so we, took the document that we mailed out to everybody and updated it, and we were able to reduce it down to 2 pages.
Right.
And again, preface what I'm about to say by, I have no pride of authorship whatsoever. We basically took a document Mr. Mullen had and sent it out to everybody, et cetera, and on this committee. And I took their inputs. And I will say this again, I think in this first mailing, first contact, I think those first few paragraphs are important to let the townspeople know that these issues are in place because the state is saying we have to follow. And we, this committee and the Board of Health and the Board of Selectmen are working to minimize the impact on the residents of the town. And I think we need to be put in that position. This committee, again, the Board of Health, Board of Selectmen, say we are helping you as opposed to giving people the idea that maybe we, the elected officials, are doing it to them. I don't think we need to do that in the future, but in this first mailing, I think it's important to, establish position. That's sure. But if everyone disagrees with that in terms of what it says here, I'm okay with that. So I just think it's an important part of this initial communication.
Did you send this one out in the mail to everyone?
No, we were discussing this. Mr. Mullen had obtained a document from another municipality, and we looked at it, we wordsmithed it, et cetera, but it has not gone out to the general public.
So one of the opportunities, like as we talked about, like we do in FY23, we do have access to like a communications budget that exists in the Board of Health budget. But we also have why I was really working on the spacing. So is we also have an opportunity through the mailing of the annual town meeting warrants as well. That is a 24-page standard booklet, and that we have 3 pages free on right now. And so what I wanted to bring as an idea, based on the fact that the warrant goes to every household in the town, that at the end, that we include this at the end of the warrant. It won't be, as effective as the mailing we're gonna do as well. But I mean, with the 3 pages that we're paying for and we have available anyways, it's like a good opportunity to really start getting the information more out there as well. So I wanted to throw that out there to see what everyone
And
thought.
this document that you're proposing to put in the warrant includes all the inputs from, people on this committee, that as they came in, I incorporated them, into that long, larger print document, but these 2 pages, include all that information.
It goes at the end of the warrant,
Yeah,
at the beginning, were people still interested?
Great point.
yeah, the only issue is that will take the attention away from the warrants as well.
Okay,
So yeah, like it's like,
yes,
This may be the other thing some of them read.
right,
Well, I mean, and here again, you can make the statement further down the road, well, everyone received a mail.
right,
So, here it is.
Yeah.
no excuses.
And, I mean, quite frankly, I mean, why pay for a separate mailing, right?
I mean, there's nothing stopping us from mailing out just this in the future, but if you got 3 extra
Yeah,
pages,
yeah.
throw it out there.
It's already
Yeah,
being
the cost
mailed.
is minimal, it's the cost of
Right.
printing, so, yeah.
so yeah, like I mean, so like when we have, so like and through the warrant, we do have 24 available pages, like in the price, it doesn't change whether or not we use all 24, so like if we have it, we utilize it, we get this information out there, was that sure?
Well, I don't know if it's appropriate, but I move we recommend that this document be included as part of the annual town meeting warrant.
Sure. Is there a second?
Yes, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Have you guys wanted this to do that? Not yet? Okay.
I went in this morning, but there wasn't any review.
That's not there?
Yeah,
The audacity of him not to show up for you.
no. But they told me to come anyway.
Oh, sure, absolutely. And that's part of new business, and I apologize for not introducing you up front and waiting till halfway through the agenda. But obviously, everybody knows this is Mr. David Neely.
Actually, I think you know everybody here except that gentleman.
That's Todd,
Oh, I'm the health agent.
Todd, health agent. And he's a valuable part of this process. Thank you for signing up.
You're welcome.
Update on the solid waste committee goals.
So, I mean, one of the things, I mean, just my view, like as part of our efforts on the FY20, like whole budget, we have, we have like gone in, like an updated direction, part of our budget planning. Like last fall, since we, since we were like established, we adapted to these type of changes that we had in front of us and needed to deal with at the time. One of the things, I wanted to just really have us all start thinking about where we're going to go next. And really further plan our vision. As a committee as well, we do have, we have talked hypothetically about getting to a point where we do have our transfer station run on an enterprise fund budgeting. As an example, we've talked about the cost with our current Borges contract only going through the end of FY25, which is a year and a half from now. Actually, so I'm sorry, 2 years from now. There's a ton of things we need to be thinking about planning for and how we're going to continue to fund these issues in the future. I just wanted to I think we all agree that we made a significant amount of progress over the last 8 months, but taking an opportunity now to kind of assess where we go forward and how we go forward from there. So I just wanted to throw that on.
8 months almost seems like a month.
Well, what is the, what issue or what state requirement is next up or is the most time sensitive?
For the state?
In other words, we have these mandates that have come down from the state, or which one of those is the most time sensitive, or to ask it,
Yeah, right now,
question, what do
it's-
we want to attack first?
yeah, right now, though, I don't think there's one that's prioritized above any other.
It's probably not so much state, it would be the agreement with CMAS.
Yeah, so what I see is that our trash and our recycling needs to be cleaned up, in order to be able to negotiate a better price.
Okay.
Because right now, if we go to renegotiate, it could be $30 a ton more because our recycling is dirty and our trash has too much recycling in it. So we need to get those both cleaner.
Okay, so, and just in terms of definitions and terminology, could you expand a little bit on cleaned up? I caught part of that, so in other words, we've got too much recycle in our bag trash, and we've got to pay for recycling, but it's single stream, right? Recycling.
It's single stream, but there's too many contaminants in the single stream recycling.
Such as?
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter in the peanut butter jar, mayonnaise in the mayonnaise jar, plastic bags, kitty litter, diapers, the list goes on and on, but,
Pizza boxes.
So maybe that's where we need to go next. That issue, because if it's going to be an issue, and when is the CMAS contract up?
June of 25,
Okay, so 2 years, so I mean,
they correspond to the same day.
maybe we should start that ball rolling.
That should have been, or can be low hanging fruit, yes.
That's gone out before, that list of what's, I remember the pizza boxes being.
Tom did the flyer.
Tom did, maybe it's time to substitute this, Tom, I'm sorry. This flyer that was gonna go out, because it is gonna be printed on the warrant with that same flyer that went out a few years ago.
It could be updated. The biggest thing I think we still need to do, and I don't think it's been done yet, is the recycling audit.
Okay,
That wanted to do a few years back, we just didn't have the staff nor the dollars to do it.
right,
I don't know where we're at, has anything been done with
no,
recycling audit?
We have,
what's the order?
and for those that don't know what recycling audit is, they take a trash truck, pick a day, it doesn't matter which day, they go and they dump it out on the floor and they go through it and figure out how much of it is recycling that should have not been in the trash truck.
Right,
And so that number is probably somewhere to the tune of, say, 13% or whatever the number is. That number, any percentage over 10% is an extra 1% increase on the cost of disposal on the other end. So
right,
it behooves us to get that cleaner.
sure,
Yeah, they let us know where the problem areas are, and then we have to send the staff out there to do,
so we pay for
yeah, and leave notices.
Oh, that's recycling IQ, that's not the
Oh,
audit,
it,
yeah.
okay,
It's usually paid through with grant money. Most
Is it?
municipalities do that with grant money. I don't know if we would qualify.
okay, because,
The parameters that I read were more geared towards a municipality,
okay,
not a rural setting. But that doesn't mean we wouldn't qualify,
Right.
but that's typically how they pay for those.
Apply, the worst thing they can do is say no.
right, there's, that was the harm.
So the approximately like 4,000-ish, I believe, like we get through the state DEP every year, like as a grant. How do we currently leverage that? Those grant funds.
The last couple of years, we bought roll-offs, correct, Tom?
Mhm.
And so we can use it for the recycling audit, which is gonna cost a few $1,000s
Yep.
for them to do that part of it. The recycling IQ, far too much money, you definitely go for a grant for that, if that's what we wanna do.
And what's the IQ?
But if we're gonna do that, that is a really,
It's
really,
very invasive. You actually go to people's homes and look
Oh,
for their
no.
trash.
Look through
Yeah,
the trash.
no, they're for recycling.
I don't see that being well received here.
No, I don't,
No.
that'd be almost a non-starter.
No.
So, but if we did a recycling audit, though, like we like at least know where we are, like you know
Right.
where we're, I know where we're at as a baseline in terms of what types of things has a potential to affect our FY26 rates and where we. Like in order to come up with an action plan to address those type of things in advance, right?
I think working with our current waste hauler, it would actually simplify the process because he has a good relationship with the town.
Yeah,
So we could probably come up with the least costly method to do that. But I do agree that's important for us to identify.
Is there a reverse audit, would they audit recyclables and see what shouldn't have been recycled, or is it just trash and,
I think you can audit either
Anything.
trash or recycling.
okay,
Both have a benefit.
Yeah.
If we can identify what the core problem is with Dayton recycling, then certainly we can narrow our educational focus. So I think both would be beneficial.
right,
I think that's an achievable goal if we wanna set one.
Ms. Neely, yes.
Is there a practical percentage to get down to?
I believe it's 10, right?
10% contamination.
10% contamination.
8 would be ideal, but under 10 is where you wanna be.
So, in order to come up with a solution, the first step would be the audit. And now, how finite does that audit break things out into? In other words, does it say, for instance, to go back to your example of 13% and 3% over, does it say, okay, within this 13%, 7% of that was peanut butter jars? I mean, is it that?
Well, it's all how much you wanna pay.
Well, okay, the question, I guess, is what do people need to know? Okay, what do people need to know? In other words, if they say, oh, I can't throw out pizza boxes, I mean, as part of the educational process, which would be derived from the audit, don't people need to know, okay, hey, this much of our trash was peanut butter, this much of our trash was pizza boxes, et cetera. So you can help by, I don't know if we need to be that definitive, but slice it that thin, if you will. But, you know, I would like to look at how much it costs to do this level, this level, this level, and what are we gonna derive from that money being spent? Because here again, I think the education piece, while certainly the audit is important, the education piece and how well it's portrayed and people, residents understand that you can save tax dollars by what you do in your own home and what you put in the bag, et cetera. I think we need to look at all that before we come up with a definitive plan to say, this is what we're going to do. That's my view.
Asking for the help.
Yeah,
In
one
a
point.
letter, instead of saying, this is what we need, asking, can you help us
Yeah, after the original
recycle?
initial audit, Borges at the time was willing to work with us to tag violations while it was out there.
Individual violations?
Yeah, they go out and look at it, and not to go through it
Right,
piece by piece, but if you see something, they would tag it
Yeah.
and leave it outside or
Okay.
take it.
Yeah.
And they would leave the tag for the person saying, this is the problem,
Mhm.
And I think that would have to come
if we could get
after the audit and after the education piece, the tagging piece, because let's see some issues there.
I mean, before he leaves, I don't know if anybody's as generous as he's gonna be once he leaves the town, with what he does for this town
Sure.
over the last 40-some years.
oh, yeah.
So, it wouldn't hurt to ask him if he'd come by and see.
It's a great marriage.
Really, do we, do we expect his plans to potentially really change after 25, Tom?
I don't know what he's gonna, I think it all depends if his son takes over the business.
I believe that's
About
the
it.
plan right now,
Yeah.
cause Tom Peters already not driving truck, so.
Who actually, would it be Borges who actually does the audit itself?
Well, the company, yes.
Okay.
But in order for it to be valid, it needs to be witnessed by a town official. We need to be involved in that process.
Yes, okay. Like on that note, would it be appropriate to invite the Borgeses to our next or upcoming meeting so we can really define that scope? Which would then allow us to see what we have in available grant funds to be able to fund such a project. And then we can move forward from there.
Sure, at least via Zoom.
I knowing Mr. Borges for a lot of years, I'm not sure he'll come here, I'm not sure he'll log on to a computer
No.
for Zoom, but he will meet with a couple of town officials to talk about it in earnest.
Okay.
If the meeting was early in the day, or,
Okay.
you know, you would probably do it, but.
Just as good.
During that meeting, again, to get back to the audit, you know, here again, what does audit mean and how thin do you want to slice it? I think that needs to be part of the discussion. You want to just say it was 13%, okay? Or of that 13%, a breakout of, you know, the major components, and how much would that cost? Because I think the more data you have, to a point, the better you can plan your response to the problem. Without, I wouldn't, you know, there's a balance of gain versus cost, you know, and I think we can figure that out, but I think the more information, the better.
How much of an issue is it right now? That we're mixing? Is it just a hunch that it's 13%, or that was the last audit?
No, I was just saying that if we're at 13%, then that's, because our prices keep going up.
Yeah.
We're not getting better prices,
Right,
so, I don't think Peter actually gave us an estimate on it
okay,
at one point, but I know we're over 10.
The answer is we don't know.
right,
However, we're being pulled into the rest of the state, who overall exceeds the 10% threshold.
right,
So statewide, which is why the trash companies or incineration companies, the CMASs, are raising the rates because overall the trash that they collect and the recycling they collect is over the threshold.
okay.
But do we know what Dayton is? No.
So what's the benefit of knowing what Dayton is? If we're gonna be lumped into this at a cost anyway, is it worth even applying for a grant or paying anything out of our pockets?
Well, the reason why it's paid for with grants is because if the state supports identifying what the problems are, then eventually statewide will catch up to the problem.
Right,
But I agree with you, in the short term, is there any benefit? No, but overall, in the overarching picture, yes, it will all benefit. Because if we can get enough cities and towns to make a difference, then we can affect the overall.
but what do towns like Somerset and Swansea do? I mean, they have recycle programs as well. Do they have an issue with?
But there's certain towns that have done the recycling on Cure, they've had aggressive programs to clean it up.
Yeah.
And their numbers have come down. So we used to sell all our recycling to China, but China stopped taking it because our recycling is too dirty. That's when that will hit. If we can get under 10%, we can negotiate with New Bedford Waste for a price for Dayton. Every town has its own price, and they base it on how dirty the stuff is coming in, but we don't know how dirty we are to be able to negotiate. So I think the recycling audit is a very important step.
Which should come after the information gets out, to see how many people have reacted to it and.
Well, yeah, or you do it before and after to know how successful our program was.
Right,
Because if it cut 1% off, hit the program again.
Yeah.
But if it took 0.01%, well, then obviously you gotta do something different,
sure.
so.
Right, we don't even have any type of baseline right now.
We don't.
Okay.
The other thing that I think is gonna be coming from the state is that whole charm stuff, the taking stuff that's hard to recycle out of the stream. For example, Christmas tree lights.
Yep.
Those are recyclable, but right now most people throw them in the trash because they don't know that. But if you're gonna say, let's take Christmas tree lights, you can't put them curbside in a single stream, they have to go to a different place. So you either have to have a location and say, oh, take it to 1 Street in Rainham, or where we have a bin to collect them in, and then that kind of thing. So I think that's coming, but is it 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? I don't know.
No, I think that's an interesting comment because in my opinion, if you don't make it easy for someone to recycle a specific product like that, or a problem product, like the bags, for instance.
Yep.
Bags are a problem, they clog up the machine. So if we don't give the public an outlet for that, we're never gonna get them removed from the recycling.
Right.
So we need to work as a group on that. Not that we need to hand it to them on a silver platter, but if there's a way that we can offer a receptacle at the transfer station, then that's what we do.
It's interesting because there's a neighbor of mine who lives across the street, a couple houses down, and they pride themselves on recycling, but their newspapers are in a paper bag, which has a plastic bag around it, because they don't want it to get wet. And
Or if it gets wet, it fills with the rainwater.
it fills with the rainwater. But just in a conversation that he told me, look, because we had something about this conversation, and I didn't have the heart to tell him, because he thinks he's doing a great job, and I didn't want to
Right.
knock him down.
Right.
But it's just interesting that people don't know. He probably doesn't recycle his bags because he knows that, but yet he's using one for recycling.
Back to Mr. Aguirre's point, I agree. Absolutely, you know, you can say, well, for us to put out, I'll use your example, a bin for Christmas tree lights, it's cost us so much. However, if it costs us a few pennies to put that out there and make it simple for people as opposed to driving to Timbuktu, they're not going to drive to Timbuktu.
Right.
And if we put it there, when the bin is full, we take it to wherever. Because overall, when you look at, you know, the balance and flow, and the flow of money, we're saving money by keeping it out of the stream.
The other thing I think the state's gonna be pushing for, and it's not here yet, it's not mandated, but they're gonna want us to have like styrofoam bans and plastic bag bans and that kind of stuff in Dayton. Obviously, that's regulations and stuff that we would have to enact and adopt and all that kind of thing if we choose to go that route, but I think it's like the state wants every town to have the regulations for plastic bag bans, because they don't wanna ban it across the state.
Right.
And so it's like town by town is doing it at this point, but they're pushing on every town to do it.
What's the goal for any kind of construction at the transfer station? Still talking a lean-to at some point, and
Well, if we're talking about expanding the recycling program or offering more bins, then we're gonna have a discussion about some type of roof structure to keep the weather off this stuff, so yes.
so it's gonna be a goal for us in
It's going to
this
happen.
next
Right.
few meetings.
So in the Board of Health, what was at the beginning, of the capital planning process, the Board of Health did prioritize some type of new building structure there as
Right.
well. So we have a place for that, placeholder for that. Based on where this whole discussion goes already,
Okay.
But that
yeah.
was $20,000, but I think it was a few years ago when we put it in,
Yeah.
so.
We had
20,000 in the budget, or transfer from free cash, or it wasn't a town warrant article?
We, it was identified as a Board of Health capital priority then, but like it was never. We haven't, because of all this and the broader discussion about the operation of the transfer station. We wanted to really make sure we were at a place, where we were like implementing the point of sale first and then moving, into like wherever the discussion with that really went, so.
You gonna say something else? I thought you were gonna say something. No, okay.
I was thinking about it, but.
Oh. Or anything else on our goals for the next few meetings? Yes, sir.
Next few meetings. I would like us to, and I'm sorry, I don't have the agenda in front of me, is there long-term goals on here too?
There should be, we just had to come, solid waste committee goals.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, we can talk about a long term.
Okay. I think a few things were said tonight which raised the question or the charge of this committee is we have a lot of things happening in the next couple of years. We have the contract with CMUS
Yeah.
coming up. We have the contract with our current waste hauler coming up. We have the unknown of whether our waste hauler will renew a contract
Yeah.
in 2 years. So I really think we need to delve into the discussions about what we do long-term with solid waste. And I think that's gonna open up the discussion about possible enterprise of solid waste. Do we move to private haulers? Do we move to third parties? We need to have those discussions. More importantly, from the town side, and we don't have to get too deep into it now, I think getting control of our solid waste costs in the operating budget is extremely important for us to be able to balance the budgets moving forward in the years ahead.
Right.
So I think, and 2 years goes by like this.
Sure.
So,
Will it help us to have these programs in place when we go to Borges? and say, look, this is what we're trying to accomplish or what we are accomplishing?
Oh, absolutely.
And getting a price from him?
Absolutely, because if it helps cut our costs or, helps, or partner with him to identify what the problems
Or
are.
reduce the tonnages.
Right. So, yeah, reduce trash trimming, increase recycling tonnage, but, it's all correlated. So,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
Jim, based on that, do we look at how we as a town through this committee, do we look at how we're funding our solid waste fees in our budget? Oh, and compare that to other towns around us to see, what we're doing, what we're paying for. And how we're actually funding it, are we, are we a part of a bigger group who are funding it that same way? Do other towns fund it a different way? Do other towns just, have, based on the world around us, they have a private hauling, I know Raynham, they outsource, they don't even have trash pickup as part of, the town operations, I'm not saying that's bad or good or indifferent.
Yeah, but they also, you can bring your trash to the transfer station.
Yes, okay, yeah, but I'm just wondering, we
don't have that ability here in Dayton, so.
but part of our analysis, we look at how we really how we really stack up in all those equations in order to, to better determine how we're going forward too, especially with regards to funding. Oh, I'm not the chair, so.
Sure, go ahead.
If we did what you're proposing.
Yeah.
Do we have the resources to do that?
In terms of what, I'm sorry?
Well, the survey, whatever you had in mind for the surrounding towns,
Yes, I believe we can do that internally, yes.
it's a lot of work.
We have a lot of
It is.
dedicated people on this committee. And now you're part of it.
Just give me boots and gloves and come on out.
In the Department of Revenue, they have a lot of this information as well, based on how different towns fund these different things as well. So I think the Department of Revenue might be able to point us, to a good overarching beginning point.
I think DEP tracks it through Retrack too, and you can get access to all the towns through Retrack.
Okay.
Could you define for me, private hauler? I mean, as Orgis is a private company.
Yes.
Contracted by the town.
Yes.
So when you use the term private hauler, could you differentiate what we use now versus what you're saying by private hauler?
And yes, I apologize for that. So a private, it would be a completely private pay program. So where we as a town, hypothetically, we as a town wouldn't procure watches. So and we wouldn't procure anything to do with CMAX. We would just basically, we would take ourselves out of the solid waste business, and we would really rely on our residents to take care, of the solid waste needs on their own, and if that meant contracting with Win Waste or ABC on their own, our residents, we would take ourselves out of really being involved in the solid waste business, if you will, hypothetically.
Okay, I understand. So I'm contracting with whoever.
Yes.
You're contracting with whoever. I have a personal contract. Okay.
Yes.
In theory, you could get everybody on a street to use the same one and maybe get a discounted rate.
Right.
And there's different levels to that, and I think that's what Mr. Mullen, Administrator Mullen is trying to allude to, is get a grasp of what's really out there. Because I think you'll find that a lot of communities, they found out what best fits for their community. I don't think it's a one size fits all, especially in Dayton where they are used to curbside.
Right.
Curbside's been something that maybe even attracted or was part of the attracting to Dayton. So, yeah, we need to be mindful of all that.
There's a large elderly population that would not go for that.
Right.
Especially when they're generating half a bag a week.
So let's look at that piece of solid waste. And let's look at the transfer station. If I do not wish to contract with a private, make a contract with a private hauler, would the transfer station accept what I now put in a bag of Borges?
Just what Rehoboth does.
Okay.
And Berkeley does the same thing.
And then
And Rainham.
But how would that be paid for when I drop it off at the transfer station? What funds the disposal of my bag of trash now that I've left it at the transfer station?
Still pay as you throw.
Okay.
Still gonna buy your town bags and you're still gonna do all that.
Okay, and then what controls, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody,
but it's a
what
healthy.
controls what I put in that bag?
In theory, there'd be an attendant there that would keep an eye on it, but that's why you usually make recycling free and trash, it costs money, so that people would recycle before they put it in the trash.
So there could still be a piece that even if we said our position as a town is that everybody in town is going to contract with somebody. There's still a piece of it that if I choose not to contract, I can take my bag down to the transfer station. So in fact, the town is still involved in that, even though it's pay as you throw.
Right.
There's still, the town is still on the hook for some level of trash disposal. Is that a fair statement?
If you choose to do
Yes,
that,
yes.
you may choose not to collect it at the transfer station, but yes, if you did, the town would still be responsible.
Okay, so then what happens if I do not want to contract? And again, this is just for
You know, right?
You know, as I'm mulling this over in my mind here, if I choose not to contract, and you won't take it, I'm throwing it on the side of the road. You know, plain and simple. What am I gonna do with it? Set up a burning barrel like we did 50 years ago in the backyard? I mean, again, to your point, if we don't make it easy and palatable, I think we'll get negative behavior. Is what destructive behavior.
These are all valid points. So usually, speaking from experience, communities that go with that type of a setup, there's money in the budget, operating budget, to police exactly what you're saying. So there's some type of a part-time person or a contracted individual who goes out, and honestly, if they find trash thrown on the side of the road, they go through the trash and they try to find out who the original was. And then you have a fee structure set up as part of it where people are actually fined for doing that. So the answer is complex and it's gonna take a lot of discovery. So I understand your point as to who's gonna do all that, but I think if we have enough time, which is if we start now, we can have a good plan going into the last 6 months of our contract with knowing that this may be the way we're going to go.
And I think it's also important, if I were sitting at the board of directors of doing such a thing at CMAS, and you came into me and said, we did an audit, this is what we found and we fixed it, I'd say, well, that's very nice, but here's your price.
Right.
Whereas we did an audit, this is what we found, we fixed it, and we had 2 subsequent audits done by those which had no vested interest in the town's business. And this is what we found. I would say, I could look at that and it sort of validates what the town said it did, and I could give you a better price. So I think that, we need to consider that too in this overall plan.
Can I ask you, is this doable?
I'm sorry?
Is this doable
Sure, lots of communities do it.
now?
Yes,
How long do you think it's gonna take?
we have to start now.
Might not make sense for us, but.
For us to convert
And we have to start now. This is not something because we're looking for work. This is something that needs to be addressed. It needs to happen.
Absolutely.
The operational costs have just gone, each year exponentially keep going up. So we need to get control of this. And the mandates just keep coming from the state and federal level. So we need to figure this out. I don't have the answer, I don't. I'm hoping that the answer will unveil itself as we start to talk, or the path, so to speak, to the answer. But, yeah, I'm bringing this up now because it's gonna take 20 months to do this.
What is the curbside pickup contracts worth, like
No,
500?
all told with CMS in there as well, and with the transfer station separated out, $770,000 of our town budget. That's
So, you
pretty
know,
significant.
you're making good points, but people are gonna say, so what do I get out of it?
Yeah.
I might do my taxes go down,
Exactly.
so, and not right off the bat, it's the curbside pickup
Right.
costs that go away.
It's hard to convince somebody that your taxes are not gonna go down, they're just not gonna go up as much.
Well, but that has to be the discussion too.
The other thing to consider here is right now it's costing about $250 a house for this curb pickup. If they go to private haulers, I know my neighbor pays like $800 or $900 a year, so it's gonna be a significant jump in their costs. But, obviously reduces the cost on the town.
Yeah.
But the cost for each individual homeowner is going to be significant. And if we do go to private haulers, well, the DEP's already asked them, we have private hauler regulations that mandate they do recycling. And we don't have those yet either, and it's on our to-do list to get there. But we don't have a lot of private haulers in Dayton because most people take advantage of our program because it's so much cheaper than doing that.
We don't walk away scot-free.
No, not at all, we're still responsible.
Right.
Right. But we're not subject to the ebbs and flows, so to speak, which is really crippling our budget, our operating budget.
Do we, does the DEP know or have a list of those communities that have been successful with solid waste programs within their community? The reason I'm asking is the mattress thing. Simone found a wonderful program for another municipality. Go out there and, tap other municipalities that have been doing this for a while instead of reinventing the wheel. And say, hey, could we have a copy of your whatever, your notebook, your documents, whatever, and start the discussion there.
And that's I'm sorry.
No, it's just, there are communities, they are where the communities that have done the recycling IQ, and they're still active in the recycling cleanliness, the contamination. So they pretty much have it, at least, I don't know, I haven't been involved with it.
It hasn't changed since you left.
Well, I mean, could we communicate with those municipalities, for the sake of argument, so we don't get overwhelmed, say 3 to 4 or 5 of them, and just obtain those documents and maybe the precursors to this is what our thought process was that led us to this, the document that we use today, and start there.
Well, even better, DEP analyzes all this data and Tom goes to a lot of more of these meetings than I do. But they can boil it down for you and tell you why certain towns are successful in what they do and whatever. They have all the data.
So yeah,
Which Tom, this Tom?
Very.
Well, both.
You know,
These,
You go to those meetings?
I don't wanna fly.
I used to go quite a bit, there was, I haven't been lately. But they get, during meetings, towns share the pros and cons, what worked, what didn't work.
Well, would this be a starting point?
Yes,
Because if
And
you,
you might
if,
not move as fast as what Jim was alluding to.
no, but I mean, to go to 1 or 2 of these meetings, if they're monthly, and try to get a handle on which communities we might wanna have a one-on-one discussion with, because here it comes, if you wanna go to that, I would, I hate using this word.
You're going.
Volunteer
You're
to
going.
go with you, if so allowed.
I knew you were going.
I don't like the band word, but occasionally I use it.
so what about, I mean, so yeah, like in addition to that as well, like, yeah, and yeah, sometimes we like refer to DEP and their mandates or requirements, but not so recurring thoughts, but like, what if we invite a representative from DEP, we have one over like in Taunton, what about if we invite them to our next meeting? I can have, we, over the last 8 months, have found ourselves reacting to what they're doing. Let's see what the best practices are, what cities and towns, maybe doing the best work and everything, like, and controlling costs at the same time. What about like if we see if they have anyone to come here and, let's share whatever they're doing or thinking of with us.
Well, if we're gonna do that, which is probably a good idea, we should, if we agreed on someone to do that, maybe we should also list of 3 or 4 or 5 things, or 8 or whatever, that we would like them to focus on, in addition to, like programs that have been successful in other communities, where those communities are, why they were successful, those programs were successful, costs maybe, I don't know what that might be. But, where they are, what they're doing, why they're effective.
I think we're gonna find at least when I was there looking at this couple years back, that the large communities were able to accomplish the recycling IQ. I think probably we should look at communities somewhere around our size that may have taken it on.
Right.
Is that about true? The larger communities were the ones.
Yeah, because it was easier for them to walk door to door to door to door, and Dayton, when you gotta go 200 feet between houses, it takes a lot longer. Right.
Plus they had the personnel already to accommodate the grant funding that they received, they were all in-house.
Yeah, usually you need a grant administrator for that type of grant, so.
Yeah, you probably need all of them, but in my view, let's start out with the basic of, get some ideas of what's been successful, and then sit around and have that discussion about how do we, this was successful, how do we approach that success?
But again, you still need to know what your baseline is right now.
Well, exactly.
To know, again, education may have helped years ago when we mailed out the flyer, it may have helped.
Right.
But if people don't know plastic bags are a problem, we can just address just that.
Sure.
Right.
A lot of people put it, I see, as I drive by, I see, especially today, everything is shipped and it comes back in styrofoam.
But if plastic bags or styrofoam, they're both recyclable, just not in the single stream.
Right.
So if you have a bin that you collect the bags, you can go to Hannaford or whatever, and they have a bin and put it in. They don't, most people don't, but
Right.
there is a bin there. Or if you collect styrofoam, there's a market for it, an active secondary market, but you gotta collect it, and it's gotta be clean when you collect it for somebody to buy it off.
And it gets back to your point about, you probably cannot tell your taxes when you go down. However, by virtue of your participation, they just won't go up as much, you know?
Do we have anything to add?
I think, well, we do it over a period, a long period, it may work. Roll it out slowly, if you suggest like I did once, people bring in their own recyclables and trash to the transfer station, eliminating curbside pickup. It would probably be a nightmare.
Sure.
Right now, right at this
Right.
point. So.
Especially when you consider some of these 40B developments just became public streets and not paying for their trash pickup. Just to have it ripped out from underneath it.
Yeah, that's not the answer.
No.
We'll figure it out though.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with going back to the way it was.
In other words, the fire going.
We won't go there.
That's right. You know, it's funny, my father used to say, he'd drive in with a load and drive out with a load.
Oh, yeah.
And there was always a fire going somewhere
That's funny.
in the dump.
People will have to rationale back up there, we don't have to worry about it.
So, just so I understand, are we going to, Mr. Mullin, are you going to approach someone or from DEP or who's going to do that maybe on the next meeting?
Yeah, like we can reach out if everyone would be on board for that.
Yeah, I would recommend that we, as a group, discuss what we want to talk about and then come here. So that there's some definitive direction,
Well, yeah,
and then we invite them to the following meeting.
And it might be the same thing as with Peter Porter's, we might need to do it in the 9 to 5 workday kind of thing.
I mean, I think we can figure it out
Oh, yeah, I'm just
between us,
Throwing it
yeah.
out there. that-
but I mean, I think, to go back to your point, in view of solid waste management, et cetera, and reducing contamination, et cetera, what communities have been successful in doing that? Why were they successful? How did they approach it, et cetera? I think, I personally think that's a good place to start, and then what communities have been successful, and we could do, private communications with, as a board, with those communities, bring in their plans and then start to review them and see what might apply right here.
And in the meantime, I feel like even if it's a small group, we can try to like, sit down with Borges and like get and get some additional information on an audit. So like we can really like talk about like in the final like a scope that will is affordable based on our existing budget, but also give some information that we really need to get at to be successful.
Because without the audit.
So we don't have, yeah.
Yes.
Ready to schedule our next meeting? Okay. You want to go, on Mondays? Everybody have a preference? My schedule would choose to be the one that we kind of work around, it's wide open, so. Anybody have a particular date or vacation?
Juneteenth is a holiday.
Right. June 5th obviously is the town meeting, Juneteenth is the holiday, the 19th,
26?
June 26th works. Sure. In particular time, you guys are here, you like to continue instead of having to come back.
If this time works, it's just really,
I like
4 o'clock works fine.
that work for you, Mr. Bailey?
And it would be the Wilton Hall.
whatever's available. Okay. But if we work it out now, June third, you will somehow be available.
Is that a set, 226?
Yes.
All in favor?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
We'll get the agenda out early too. Any public input at this point? Nobody see it?
Yeah, well,
Go ahead.
I should have brought this up before, but
What's the rest?
does the committee want me to move forward with the flyer to amend it and
Oh, absolutely.
get pricing again and so
I
forth?
would think so.
Okay, yes.
Do you have any minutes to approve yet?
We don't as of yet.
Okay. Last but not least, I think we call it adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Anybody opposed? And it's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Yes. Oh, one of those necessary